our program here, we started in 2007. At the time, the director of South Carolina Department of Corrections came to our school, and asked if we would consider offering a program, higher ed faith-based program, to the inmates there. He got that idea, John Osmond got that idea from going down to Angola, Louisiana State Penitentiary called Angola, and what he saw there was a godly warden called Burl Cain, and Angola was considered the bloodiest prison in America in the 70s. But Burl Cain became the warden after a long slew of wardens transitioning out, and he opened the door for New Orleans Theological Seminary to come and offer courses. When they came in to teach and they offered a master's degree, that really helped revolutionize the yard. It used to be, again, bloodiest prison in America. It turned into Bible clubs there, and they had inmate-led churches. And so these inmates turned pastors and leaders were trained, and it just really impacted the yard in such a degree that it became a place of peace and a place where God would just really cause many inmates to convert and to accept Christ and to bloom and blossom. So Director Osmond went down and took a look at that, and then invited us to go down and take a look at it as well. And I was privileged to be a part of that team in that role that I was serving at CIU, to go and take a look at that work. We brought that back to Columbia, and we began to put together our program, which is actually an associate's degree program that we've been offering since 2007. And so we offer about 60 credits, 61 credits to be exact, which includes Bible, theology, ministry, and general education, psychology, counseling, ethics, those kind of courses that we offer, math and English, of course, and just a well-rounded education. But the goal of it is not just to give the inmates a degree, but to equip and train them so that when they graduate after 2 years, they'll be sent out into the institutions around the state of South Carolina and work with the chaplains at those institutions, so that they will be kind of chaplains' arms and feet and chaplains' extension to be able to relate and minister to their fellow inmates. So our purpose is to equip inmates to make an impact within the walls, which ties into CIU's overall mission to impact the nations with the message of Christ. And so we get our philosophy from 2 Timothy 2:2, where Paul tells Timothy, the things you've heard from me amongst many witnesses, and trust of faithful men, that they may teach others also. And so we equip and disciple them, train them and release them so that they can go and minister and equip others. It really is a mission strategy and missiology, because it's kind of like training the locals, that they would go out and make a better impact than we can. You go to a mission field and you learn the language, you learn the culture, and you train them and then release them to go to impact their families and so forth. You know, we realize as a pastor and as chaplains who work at the institutions, we're still considered outsiders. But just imagine the relatability that an inmate has with another inmate. They're able to share with them, you know, I'm in the same boat that you're in, but here's what the Lord has done with me and done for me and done through me, and I can share with you, and it really has a great impact. And so our motto, to know him and make him known, which is our CIU motto. And it is a model of discipleship, where we're discipling them and equipping them again so that they can go and make disciples. So the impact you see in this picture, if you can, this is one of our graduations. I think this is probably maybe just based on the back of the heads. We can't show the faces of the inmates, but I can recognize them from the back of the head sometimes. I think this looks like the 2010 graduation, if that served correctly. But we actually have a graduation. They go through the 2 years program. It's a full 6-semester program, 3 semesters per year. We have a fall semester, spring semester, and summer. And so for 6 semesters, we ride them through. It's a full year school. Can be very daunting, but we get them through. And then we have an actual graduation, pomp and circumstance. They have cap and gown, and so similar to a commencement service on our main campus, Their families are able to attend, and you can imagine it's never a dry eye in the house because these guys have messed up and now incarcerated. Their families are able to get to see that the Lord has changed their lives, and now they actually have a degree which they may have never thought they would even finish or even get a college education. So in the time before this, these are kind of numbers before COVID. We're still trying to get back to some of the things we used to do before COVID hit. But our students, part of their training, we allowed them to go, and they were able to go to do cell-to-cell ministry with the other inmates on the yard at institution. South Carolina is kind of unique to some degree in their system, Department of Corrections system. There's one institution that is called the R&E Center, Receive and Evaluation. And so anybody who does time in this system have to go through Kirkland Correctional Institution, where our program is housed. And they're there to go through classification. SCDC will determine what level security they'll go to, psychological evaluation, all those things when an inmate goes in to be evaluated. And they're usually there between 30 to 180 days. As soon as they are sentenced, they go to Kirkland, and they're in this R&E area, in these cells. And it's usually 3 inmates to a cell, and they're there 23 out of 24 hours a day, going through this evaluation system for, again, a month to 180 days. They're there being classified. And they don't allow them to go through any services or anything like that, programs or any churches or anything like that. And so they had allowed our students to go down to minister to them. And so every inmate who came into the system of Kirkland or South Carolina heard the gospel from our students over and over again. And so these were some of the numbers that we were able to track since 2007. They're about, on the average, 30,000 visits each year, perhaps 400,000 in total, 15,000 conversions, first-time decisions. Our guys are able to share Christ with these inmates just coming into the system, no matter what they've done, no matter what crime they've committed. And they, in this moment of crisis, now they're incarcerated, they're able to hear, there is hope, Christ is here, you can be saved if you turn to him today. And so 15,000 conversions, 18,000 rededications. And so these were kind of some of the average numbers that we would see every year. Usually it's about 1,500 to 2,000 decisions, give or take, between first time and rededications that we found. As I said, since COVID, they have not allowed our students to go back to do the cell-to-cell ministry, so we're praying, and if you would pray with me that would happen. Just imagine the strategy that God had placed our program at the entry point in the prisons of South Carolina so that inmates would be able to hear the gospel over and over again. We have, since 2007, graduated 185 students, and they're serving in 21 institutions around the state of South Carolina underneath the supervision of the chaplains. And part of my responsibility has been to go to each of those institutions and travel to sit down with our graduates, to talk with the chaplains, to see how they're doing, to see what we can do to encourage them, because they realize that, it's kind of like anybody who goes to school. You have all these expectations of what it's going to be like when you get out into the real world, and you can get real disillusioned. I know you all have children, grandchildren, that they think are going to just turn the world upside down, and when they get into the real world and the hardness of life, they can get very discouraged. And so that's what we do. We go and just try to encourage them, remind them of some of the things that we taught them while they're in training, but also encourage them that I just tell them as a pastor, welcome to ministry. This is what we experience every week. So encourage them that way. We do have over 50 that have been released. That number keeps changing. But those who have graduated from our program and have been released from the prisons, and we keep track with them. We have an annual reunion every year. We invite them to come to our campus and bring their families, and they can sit down with their former professors, and they just kind of give testimony as to what God has been doing in their lives and how God, you get reconciling with families, getting married, and things of that nature. And so it's just a great opportunity to stay connected with them and hear their stories of how God has really blessed and continue to bless them. And so with that number, recidivism rate is something that, of course, the government takes a close look at, especially prisons. Recidivism rate, if you don't know what that is they kind of track those inmates who keep getting in trouble, keep going back into the system. And so for the state of South Carolina, I believe the number is about 20%, where those who ex-offenders get in trouble again and re-offend and go back into the system. Our program, as it stands right now, is at 5%. And so that means those who've gone through our program and been discipled and equipped, they don't get in trouble as much as others who have not. And so we're really excited about that, and that really proves that our program works, that there is more rehabilitation, there's a lower increase of recidivism when you offer higher ed programs or education programs in general in a prison, but when you add the faith component, it really changes the heart, and we see that taking place. We also, because we saw so many that were being released, we thought it'd be good to start alumni chapters. So when they are released from prison, we try to find out where they're going to land. A lot of them land in Spartanburg because there's a transition program called Jump Start that a lot of our guys go to, and so that's a transition house from between 6 months to a year, get themselves together and help them to get on their feet. So we have an alumni chapter in Spartanburg. We have one in Charleston. We have some graduates there. There's some who migrated to North Carolina, so we asked them to get together and create a chapter. And the whole goal is for them to support themselves and to encourage themselves. You know, one of the things we find, part of the reason for recidivism is when they get out of the prison and go back into their formal environments, they can get back in trouble again. And so we want to create some kind of support for them loosely. We really don't have the capacity to be out there with them, but just to allow them to and give them the freedom and the permission to get together and meet together, and we can still connect with them that way. And so we've done that. I'm missing a place. Columbia here is we have a chapter as well here. So our mission, fulfill the Great Commission. Even you got to look at prison. A lot of people think about the mission field, and when we hear missions, what comes to mind is foreign missions, going outside of the country. Everywhere is a mission field. This is a mission field, and the prison is a mission field. And we're often reminded and really are propelled to go. I remember in Matthew 25, Jesus was sharing, in that day, there'll be those who he will talk to and says, when you visited the prisoners, you visited me. When you clothed the naked, when you did this, you did this unto me, you did this unto me. And they ask, well, when did we do it? When you did it unto the least of these, you did it unto me. So visiting prisoners and encouraging them. Hebrews 13 tells us we ought to remember the prisoners as if we're chained with them. And so we cannot forget about them, even though they've been sentenced and away from regular population, but God still loves and cares for them. And so it is a missions field that people don't think about when we're talking about missions. And so this is where our program comes into play. And it's important because United States is still the highest incarceration, has the highest incarceration rate in the world. Over 2 million are incarcerated in our country. And so it is a large mission field that we need to consider and continue to pray for. And so 5% of the total population, 25% incarcerated population. And so this is an area that we want to reach for the kingdom and to fulfill the Great Commission. And we do this with the church. Our qualifications for acceptance, you might want to know, well, how does an inmate get accepted into our program? Well, it's not just for everyone. First of all, they have to have a GED or high school diploma because this is college. They get an accredited associate's degree that they can take with them and build on it. and they can get their bachelor's and they can get, and get their master's, and some of our students have done that. And so it's an accredited degree that we offer. And so they have to have a GED or high school diploma. They have to be discipline-free for at least a year, no major infractions while they're incarcerated. They have to have a clear salvation testimony. We want to know that they already have a relationship with the Lord. This is not necessarily for proselytization or evangelization. It's really to equip those who already have a relationship with the Lord, equip them so that they can go out and they can evangelize and reach the institutions for Christ. And so it's not just for anyone, but it's for those who have a clear salvation testimony, part of the application process to get into the program. We want them to write out a 500-word essay, and part of that essay, we want them to share their salvation experience when they come to know the Lord. But here's our trade-off. We're going to give you an education. We're going to train you, but you're going to pay it off by serving. And so we want them to serve for at least 5 years. So anybody who comes in, who applies, who's under that 7-year mark, they're not qualified to be a part of our program. It's not a program just for them to be prepared to be released. We want them to take what they learn to actually serve their fellow inmates and serve the Department of Corrections. And what's happened is they become peacemakers. Wardens and chaplains in their utilization will sometimes put them in the hardest dorms, the more difficult doors, the darkest places, because they have been trained, and there's light going into dark places, and so that they can impact and influence their fellow inmates. They agree to our doctrinal standards, and they commit to serve at a assigned institution upon completion of their graduation. We will send them out, and we tell them at the front, and they have to sign on this, we will send you wherever we need you. And so sometimes they will sacrifice where they are to be a part of this program, and we might send them to the other side of the state, because there's a need there, and they're saying we're willing to do this. And so that's what we're asking them to do. This is, I think, there's a clip here that we're going to try to play. This is one of our graduates, and he's just giving his testimony here.
My name is Stephen. I was trapped in a world of senselessness before I experienced Jesus. And even as a Christian, confusion engulfed my life. How is a 25-year-old prisoner supposed to live while following Christ? This question haunted me, but then God placed me in CIU's Prison Initiative. Now, I live a purpose-driven life. I have leadership investing in my life through discipleship. I have an education, a family, a ministry, and I have true freedom, even in prison. Now that I have something to invest with, I can invest into the lives of others. And all praise is to Him. I thank you for your support for this program and for giving somebody like me a chance.
Yeah, Stephen, as well as others, I actually did my dissertation on this program. And what I did, I was able to interview 18 graduates, 9 of whom were still incarcerated, 9 of whom were released. And my whole goal was to find out what made our program impactful in terms of spiritual growth. And one of the things, I don't have time to kind of go through all of the research, but here's the nuts and bolts of what I found. They said the training was excellent. It was good training. But the thing that really stood out amongst all 18 graduates, they said it was because of you all coming in and week out. It was life on life. You may have heard the saying, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so they saw that the impact was life sharing with life. And that's really what discipleship is all about. That you, and even evangelism, God has chosen to use man to reach man. And He's done that since the very beginning. He's using humanity, as broken as we are, as flawed as we are. As some old preacher would say, He would take a broken stick and hit a straight lick. And that's what He does. So Stephen, as well as others, were impacted by us coming through, and it is a joy and a pleasure to continue to serve. Here's another graduate, Jimmy McPhee. You probably have heard of him, I don't know, but he's kind of traveling around. Jimmy McPhee was on death row. He was actually incarcerated for 45 years. Just a very hard and mad and angry individual. But the Lord grabbed a hold of his life, and even while he was on death row, there was a minister by the name of Frankie Song who came, and that was his ministry at death row. He would just go in and he would just say the same thing over and over again. And really, this was a tough nut to crack, but Frankie Song, in his care and compassion, he would come in and say, you know, the Lord loves you and I love you too. And after a while, God just really changed his heart from a heart of stone to a heart of flesh, and he accepted Christ. He enrolled in the Prison Initiative in 2017, and he was released, to his surprise and everyone else's, on 2020. And so now God is using him to go across even our state and even other states to share his testimony, how he calls it On the Rock Ministries. And he started that and founded that, and God is using him greatly. There's another student, Robert Whitner, who was he came in, enrolled at Prison Initiative in 2010. He got released, now is married, and he just last year planted a church in Goldsboro, North Carolina, and his ministry is called No Limits Ministry, that he had launched just not too long ago. And so Rob and Helen, they actually come to our couples retreat every year in February. We go to Myrtle Beach and we have a couples retreat, and they've been coming faithfully. They actually beat my wife and I. We had what we call it's not the newlywed game. It's the family game, the married game, and it's based off the newlywed game. And they beat us. They've been married just about 5 years, and they know each other better than I know my wife, I guess. I don't know how that works, but they're doing very well. And so it costs about $5,000 per student per year to be in this program. We need prayer. We always have challenges. There's always something different and new each semester that we have to deal with. My staff really is really just me and another full-time worker, William Moore. He was a chaplain in Arkansas that I hired him, and he's done a wonderful job. And then we have our faculty that go in and teach. We offer the same courses that we offer on our main campus to these guys, and by a lot of our same professors, and they teach the same courses there. And so that's kind of where we are. We need volunteers to come in and be mentors, and what that looks like. If you're interested in even coming and take a look, we'll get you in there. And I have some cards here. Just a couple people already said they're interested in coming. It's an easy thing. Everything is laid out. You don't have to do anything as far as starting a prison ministry. Just join us. It's already established, and you can come and just sit down with the guys and talk with them and just share with them. You can schedule a time a month that you want to do that, or just come to our chapel. And we have chapels Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday mornings from 8 to 9. And you can come and sit in. If you want to speak, you can speak. We'd love for you to do that. But if you just want to visit, we'd love for you to do that. My promise to you is I'll get you in and I'll get you back out. That's my promise. I haven't lost one in 15 years, so I have a good track record, okay? But I know when those doors close and that fear begins, oh my goodness, we're in prison. But God is there as well, so He'll get you through. And please share with others about our program. Not too many people know what we do. And our support is we're funded completely by donors and organizations and ministries. And so that's who we are.